At some point in the not-so-distant future, we are likely to see capitalism fall and give way to a new economic order. But how and why did this experiment begin in the first place? And what does its demise look like? Let's find out. In our recent videos, we discussed how both communism and socialism are bound to fail. But what about capitalism? What is the fate that awaits it? Before answering the question, let's take a quick trip back in history to understand how the capitalist system came to be. Capitalism is an economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of the means of production. The defining feature of capitalism is the pursuit of profit. Businesses and individuals operating within a capitalist system aim to generate financial returns by investing capital and taking calculated risks with their money. This inherently leads to competition, which in turn drives innovation and increased productivity. Before capitalism, Europe was dominated by feudalism. Under this system, land was owned communally, and their peasants worked their land for the lord in exchange for protection. The Black Death, however, wiped out a third of Europe's population and created a labor shortage. As a result, the remaining peasants were able to demand higher wages and better working conditions. To compensate for these increased costs, landlords began to enclose their lands and mechanize farming, which gradually transformed Europe from an agricultural society to an industrial one. The Industrial Revolution saw a massive shift in economic power from the hands of landlords to those who owned and operated factories and machines. These factories were initially powered by water frames, which were later replaced by steam engines, eventually leading to mass production and unprecedented levels of wealth creation. With more goods being produced at lower costs, international trade expanded rapidly, leading to further specialization and interconnectedness among nations. By the late 19th century, the world had largely adopted some form of capitalism, though the degree to reality varies across countries. The United States became the dominant global power, both economically and militarily. At its peak, American capitalism was characterized by large corporations that dominated their respective industries. Companies such as Standard Oil, U.S., Steel, and General Electric were symbols of American ingenuity and efficiency. However, this economic dominance came at a cost. During the Gilded Age, immense wealth was concentrated in the hands of a few, while poverty and inequality became widespread. These stark contrasts between the rich and the poor led to social unrest and calls for reform. Eventually, the government intervened to regulate monopolies and protect the interests of consumers and workers. This interventionist role of the government continues to this day. Today, we live in a globalized world where multinational corporations have become the primary engines of economic growth. Technological advancements, particularly in information technology, have led to unprecedented levels of connectivity and interdependence among economies. However, despite the benefits of globalization, it has also resulted in job losses in developed countries due to outsourcing and has exacerbated income inequality within nations. Moreover, environmental concerns have become a pressing issue as the relentless pursuit of economic growth has put a strain on natural resources and ecosystems. So, with all these issues plaguing the capitalist system, what is its fate? Well, there are two potential outcomes that could shape the future of capitalism. The first outcome involves the rise of a new economic ideology that could potentially replace capitalism. Many proponents of this view argue that capitalism has reached the limits of its growth and that a new system is necessary to address the pressing challenges of our time. Some advocate for a decentralized economy based on principles of sustainability and social justice. Others call for greater government intervention and regulation to ensure equitable distribution of wealth and resources. However, It is important to acknowledge that the emergence of an entirely new economic ideology is a highly improbable event throughout history. There have been numerous attempts to establish alternative economic systems such as communism and socialism, yet none have been able to match the dynamism and adaptability of capitalism. Furthermore, any effort to replace capitalism will likely face significant opposition from those who benefit from the current system. Instead of a complete overhaul, it's more likely that capitalism will continue to evolve and adapt to the changing circumstances, much like it has done in the past. This evolution may involve a shift towards more sustainable practices, greater emphasis on social responsibility, and a renewed focus on ethical business conduct. Such changes could help address the pressing concerns about inequality and environmental degradation, while preserving the core principles of free markets and private ownership. The second potential outcome for capitalism is a gradual decline into state capitalism. This transition has already begun in many countries where the boundaries between the public and private sectors have become increasingly blurred. State capitalism involves a close relationship between governments and corporations with significant state ownership and control over key industries. While this system may offer short-term benefits such as increased economic stability or the pursuit of national goals, it also carries the risk of stifling innovation and entrepreneurship. Additionally, the concentration of economic power in the hands of the state can lead to corruption, cronyism, and the erosion of civil liberties. A good example of this is China, which has successfully integrated elements of capitalism with its authoritarian political system. Chinese state-owned enterprises play a dominant role in various sectors, and the government exerts tight control over the economy, often directing investments towards strategic industries. This approach has enabled China to achieve remarkable economic growth and project its influence globally. However, it has also raised concerns about human rights, intellectual property, and unfair trade practices. Overall, the future of capitalism is uncertain and depends on the choices made by individuals, businesses, and governments worldwide. Proponents of capitalism argue that its inherent dynamism and adaptability will enable it to overcome its challenges and continue to drive progress and prosperity. However, critics contend that the system's pursuit of endless growth and its tendency to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few will ultimately lead to its demise. Whether capitalism will be replaced by a new economic ideology, gradually decline into state capitalism, or adapt and address its shortcomings remains to be seen. One thing is for sure, though, the system that got us here won't be the one that gets us there. Ultimately, capitalism's fate is intricately linked to the trajectory of globalization. If globalization continues to deepen, we can expect more interconnected economies, increased international trade, and a growing interdependence among nations. In this scenario, corporations would continue to play a central role in driving economic growth, but they would need to operate in a more cooperative and sustainable manner. Governments will likely work together to address global challenges such as climate change and pandemics, recognizing that these issues transcend national borders and require collective action. Additionally, technological advancements, particularly in areas such as renewable energy and biotechnology, would play a pivotal role in shaping the future of capitalism. Embracing these innovations would be crucial for achieving sustainable growth and improving living standards while reducing environmental impact. However, if globalization begins to unravel, as some recent geopolitical tensions suggest, we could see a more fragmented world with competing economic blocs. In this case, national governments would prioritize self-reliance and protect their domestic industries, leading to a resurgence of protectionist policies and a decline in international trade. The role of corporations would diminish as economic activity becomes more localized, and governments would need to find ways to balance the need for economic growth with the desire for self-sufficiency. So whether capitalism thrives or declines will depend on the choices we make regarding globalization, technology, and economic cooperation. We are living through a pivotal moment in history, where these decisions will profoundly impact the future of our world. Another factor that will influence capitalism's fate is the level of inequality within societies. If inequality continues to rise, leading to stark disparities in wealth and income, it could undermine the social cohesion and stability necessary for capitalism to function effectively. Growing income inequality can lead to social unrest, political instability, and a decline in trust in institutions, which in turn can hamper economic growth and prosperity. Moreover, extreme inequality can limit economic opportunities for a significant portion of the population, resulting in reduced consumer demand and a less dynamic economy. If left unchecked, rising inequality could eventually weaken the foundations of capitalism and potentially lead to its demise. However, if societies are able to address inequality through progressive policies, such as robust social safety nets, equitable access to education and healthcare, and measures to promote equal pay and opportunities, these could help mitigate the negative consequences of inequality and ensure more sustainable and inclusive capitalist system. Technological advancements, particularly automation and artificial intelligence, are poised to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of capitalism. As automation and AI continue to displace workers, it will be crucial to address the resulting job losses and income inequality to prevent social unrest and instability. Governments and businesses will need to invest in education and training programs to equip workers with the skills necessary to thrive in a rapidly changing economy. Furthermore, ongoing technological advancements may lead to new industries, business models, and sources of wealth, creating both opportunities and challenges. Capitalism's ability to adapt to these changes and harness the benefits of technology, while mitigating its risks, will be critical to its long-term survival and prosperity. In conclusion, the future of capitalism hangs in the balance as it confronts significant challenges such as income inequality, environmental degradation, and technological disruption. Whether capitalism will adapt and thrive or face decline and transformation remains uncertain. Addressing these challenges through sustainable practices, equitable distribution of wealth, and a focus on human well-being will be crucial in determining its fate. History suggests that capitalism has the remarkable ability to evolve and overcome obstacles, but its trajectory will ultimately depend on the choices we make today. Only time will tell what path we will choose and what the ultimate fate of capitalism will be. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and joining our awesome community. And if you have a topic you want us to cover, let us know in the comments. We look forward to seeing you in the next one.